Jackie Shroyer, the wife accused of orchestrating a murder-for-hire plot that ended in the brutal stabbing death of her own husband Beau last year, she has officially been convicted out in Angola. This crime may have happened in Africa, but it has made international news. We are going to talk about the evidence, the plot, the sentences, the players, and more with an attorney and former CIA officer. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. By the way, is this just not a true example of how we cover all different kinds of crime and legal stories here on Sidebar? And look, not everybody has the ability to do what we do here, to try to do a deep dive on these stories. And one of the reasons that we can keep on doing this is because of the amazing support we get from our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest personal injury law firm. This is a firm with over 1,000 attorneys who have recovered, get this, $25 billion for more than 500,000 clients. In fact, in the past few months alone, a client in Florida received $12 million when insurance offered just $350,000. Out in Pennsylvania, another client was awarded $26 million. That is 40 times the insurer's offer. And Morgan & Morgan, they make it easy to fight for what you deserve. You can start a claim from your phone. So if you're injured, you can easily start a claim at forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar. You can click the link below, or you can scan the QR code on screen. You remember the story of an American woman who was accused of having an affair with the family bodyguard and then proceeding to order the assassination of her pastor husband, more specifically seeking out hitmen and finding an area to carry out the hit? She has now been officially convicted of murder. And this wasn't here in the United States. No, this was in Angola, convicted in Lubango District Court. We are talking about 44-year-old Jackie Shroyer. She has been found guilty in connection with the murder of her husband, Beau Shroyer, also 44. And she was sentenced to 24 years in an Angolan prison, as well as hit with an almost $11,000 fine. And this comes after she was arrested in November of 2024, quickly after the killing, by the way, and then formally charged in February of this year. Now, after Beau had moved with Jackie and their children to Angola in 2021 for missionary work. We're talking about a great human being here, missionary work. And this was through the evangelical Christian SIM USA organization out of North Carolina. He was stabbed to death on October 25th, 2024. The former Detroit Lakes, Minnesota police officer, member of the Lakes Area Vineyard Church, was lured to a remote area by several men from Angola with criminal records for serious crimes. We're talking kidnapping and armed robbery. These career criminals, this is all according to Angola's Criminal Investigation Service. So what do? They fake that they had problems with the car, right? Engine problems. They lure him to the remote area and they kill him. They stab him to death. His body found alongside a blood-stained car with his belongings. And apparently, according to the New York Post, Jackie was there, but faked that she had to go to the bathroom and went into a bush while they lure her husband away to murder him. And it's interesting because police had said at the time that Jackie appeared to be distraught at the news of the death of her husband, but again, she was the mastermind. She's the one who orchestrated everything. These hitmen were paid basically the equivalent of $50,000 by Jackie. And the hitmen, the Daily Mail identified them as Isolino Caillou, Gelson Ramos, and Bernardino Elias. Now, Bernardino Elias is somebody we got to talk about. He is the guy that Jackie was apparently having an affair with. He had been working at the family's home in Angola as a security guard. Oh, and investigators reportedly found the murder weapon, an American-made knife at the crime scene, and this was a knife that was apparently a gift to Elias from Jackie. According to authorities, days before Beau's murder, Elias and Jackie, these lovers, they go out to this remote area, again the crime scene, to check it out, in anticipation of the attack, make sure everything is okay there, that's the spot. And when it comes to motive, why would Jackie do this? She was seemingly not too happy that Beau decided the family would be leaving Angola once his missionary work ended. Manuel Halaiwa, the superintendent of criminal investigation with the Criminal Investigation Service, told the Angola press agency that with motive, quote, strong suspicions of a romantic relationship between the person who ordered the crime and her accomplice, the guard at the couple's residence. Now, I mentioned what happened to Jackie, but what happened to her accomplices? Well, Elias, Caillou, and Ramos, they were also sentenced to between 21 and 22 years, respectively, for aggravated homicide and money laundering. Now, it has been reported by local media that Shroyer's lawyer plans to appeal this decision, citing inconsistencies in the legal process and evidentiary issues. As for Beau and the family, Beau was laid to rest on November 30th, 2024. His obituary read in part, quote, "In all of Beau's adult life, his love of God and family was paramount to the way he lived his life. He married Jacqueline Hawkinson on May 6, 2005 in Andover, Minnesota. They were both eager to start their family. With faith as a guide, they provided love, education, and direction to their 5 children. His wit and unique humor brought laughter even in difficult times. Beau's heart for children was expanded when he and his oldest daughter, Bella, went on a mission trip to Africa. He became committed to finding ways that he, alongside his family, could serve the Lord by providing love, inspiration, and kindness, as well as life's necessities to the children and families in Africa. Again, a vocation in which he successfully used his many talents." You know, in fact, Beau would go on social media and he would talk about his work, talking about how the family moved to this, quote, remote bush village, so no electricity, no sewer, no water systems, but they were there to help. And he posted on Facebook the day before he was killed that the Deininger people they were helping are, quote, among the most marginalized people groups in Angola. As for the children, they returned to the United States. They're apparently in the care of close family. They're getting help from the church as well. And talking about the church, Troy Easton, the lead pastor of Lakes Area Vineyard Church, said after Jackie's conviction, quote, "It's important for you to know that this verdict follows a very thorough investigation and trial process that was monitored closely, conducted fairly, and carried out with integrity. While I am grateful for the clarity and closure this brings, I am also deeply grieved, knowing how much pain and confusion this news carries for so many, especially for Beau and Jackie's children and family. Though this news is shocking and extremely difficult to comprehend, it's important for you to know that this verdict follows an extensive investigation and trial process. The Shroyer children continue to be well cared for, and we will continue to work alongside SIM USA to ensure their ongoing care and support. Church, I love you, and I am heartbroken with you that this has become part of our story." And they added that they prayed Jackie Shroyer would run into the merciful, gracious, forgiving, and loving arms of our Father in heaven. As for SIM USA, they said in a statement, the circumstances of Beau's death are tragic and heartbreaking, but we are grateful for the measure of closure this verdict brings and pray it represents a step toward healing for all those impacted. SIM USA remains committed to supporting the Shroyer children who are being cared for by close family with support from SIM counselors and a dedicated fund set up to provide them long-term financial support. Okay, so I want to bring in right now Jack Rice, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former CIA officer. He's tried more than 50 jury trials. So happy to have you here. First of all, you know where they're from, right? You know where this family was from.
Yeah, I do. So I'm in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, which is St. Paul is the capital. That's where my office is. But Detroit Lakes is kind of northwestern Minnesota, kind of near Fargo. This is a small community of about 10,000 people. And it's really outdoorsy in many, many ways. So the idea that it would become the center of this international, I don't want to use the word spectacle, but at least international story is something that I think the people of Detroit Lakes are surprised about too. Everybody's really scratching their head. This is a religious group of people that they came from. And the idea that this could happen to this family with 5 children all the way in Angola is really something I think a lot of people are scratching their head about, certainly in Detroit Lakes and around Minnesota.
It is just a bizarre case and a tragic case, and one that, you know, I want to ask about how this was investigated and prosecuted, because are you surprised by how quickly they caught her and ultimately were able to convict her and the associates? Because it seemed pretty straightforward.
Yeah. You know, sometimes you never know sort of forensically what they're going to do and how long this process takes. So she was originally arrested in this case back in October of 2024, very quickly, by the way, after he was found.
I think November. I think it was just days. Yeah, it was days after his killing. Yeah.
Yeah, you might have been right. Like November 1st or something about this, because this actually came out in the local paper in Minnesota about this family. And it's been sort of something that people have tracked ever since. And it appears that if nothing else, one of the pieces of evidence that local authorities found was an American-made knife. And that American-made knife was actually a gift to Jackie's boyfriend, the one she was having an affair with, and they were able to link that knife back. And that was a piece of this evidence that said, this isn't just local. There's some American connection to this. And let's face it, that really starts to narrow down suspects and narrow down those who might be involved. And I think that was a massively important key piece of evidence that they started and focused in upon correctly.
I've been noticing a trend with murder for hire plots, right? In a way, you would think if you're going to outsource it, less of a connective tissue to the mastermind, the person orchestrating. It's not the case. It's not from what I've seen here. It feels to me that when you have murder for hire plots, there's some of the most sloppy crimes that are committed. They have such a trail of breadcrumbs leading back to all the people. Even if you look at something here, the murder weapon, like you mentioned, a gift from her, the money, okay, from her, she's at the scene, the affair. Am I wrong in saying there are aspects of a murder for hire plot, particularly this one, where the evidence just leads right back to all the players?
You're absolutely right, because we're talking about amateurs. And I hate to say it like that, but we are. We're not talking about people who are really thoughtful in terms of the crimes that they're trying to commit, in terms of the players, in terms of the people involved. And sometimes I think a lot of these, especially when we get something like this, when there's another person involved in this case. We've seen cases like this in the United States too, where what you end up getting is somebody who hires their boyfriend, hires their girlfriend, or hires somebody who then brings in others who are also amateurs. So what you get is the person who says, I want somebody to die. They don't do this. This is not what they are, normally speaking, because many of them, and this is very common, they have no criminal record at all, no experience with this, and then they bring in the people who are also amateurs to do the crimes themselves.
Well, yeah, they apparently enlisted, or at least, you know, her lover enlisted career criminals. So people who had criminal records. But again, it was not this level of sophistication. There was an element of planning, right? Luring him out to this remote area. Where is she going to be when this happens? Them faking that their car was having problems to get him out there. But it wasn't a foolproof plan.
It so rarely is this. You know, sometimes, again, what I see these ones where you have one person wanting to be with another, and sometimes I imagine, because we're all trying to figure out what's inside her head here, but it's being driven by emotion rather than calculation. And so what you get is something else. I want him gone, and it becomes gone at what? Any price, where you're not thinking it through, you're not doing. Not that I'm telling people how to do this, but I have to say that my experience, not just as a prosecutor dealing with cases like this, but trying just countless numbers of cases, including murders, and how they play out and how they get caught. This isn't something that people like this think about. And I can even go back to my time in the federal government now, how things are done internationally. This is not how you do it. And yet at the same time, at least what we appear to be seeing here is justice, in that what you finally have is a relatively quick, a relatively clean prosecution and conviction of those involved. She ends up serving 24 years. Those other three men that she hires for the cost of $50,000, they're going to serve between 21, 22 years. And so that's interesting. By the way, one aspect of that, Jesse, that I thought was interesting is sometimes we find that the killer, those who actually do it, serve more time than the mastermind. And I've seen that before. I suspect you have too. And to some degree, I think from a justice standpoint, I'm pleased that the mastermind in this case, the person driving this horrible act, is the person who pays the biggest price for it. Because frequently what I've seen are those who are in the proverbial cat seat making those decisions are the ones who seem to be getting away with it, and those who are lower level players somehow pay a much dearer price. They're the lowest hanging fruit, they're the easiest to prosecute, and sometimes that's what prosecutors do.
Well, she set it in motion. She made it personal. And when I think about this, and you've covered so many different cases, right? You have tons of experience in this. If I'm laying out the motive here, she's having an affair, she's not happy that Beau is going to take the family and leave this area once the mission work is done, paying hitmen to do this. Does this seem like an outlier to you, or are you saying this is a pattern I have seen time and time and time again when you have spouses or loved ones who either kill their significant other or hire somebody to do it? Is this just a pattern, something you've seen before?
I've seen it before, Jesse. I know you have too. I mean, I'm thinking one of the cases, there was a big case out of Los Angeles. There was a man who was a hairdresser. And I mean, he was big in the cosmetology industry in the world. People knew who he was. And he was killed by his wife and her lover, and several others were involved. We've seen others of these in Florida and in other parts of the East Coast too, where what you get is this. And I think one of the issues that happens is it becomes a timeline. I want this done quickly. I hate to talk about how you do this right, but what I am saying is what you get is something very, very, very sloppy. And that's the problem.
From a prosecutorial point of view, or from a defense point of view, legally, is it complicated when you have multiple people who are being tried for one crime?
You know, when I think about the conspiracy aspect of this, and I've seen this from a prosecutorial standpoint, and I train prosecutors and I train defense attorneys. I mean, this is something we're going to be doing this next week, is that one of the advantages of charging out conspiracy kinds of cases is that you can basically charge everybody with everything that everybody does. And what you're always saying, and this is what I do on the defense side, is I'm always constantly trying to what's called sever. I'm trying to exclude my client from the group of 3 people involved or 5 people involved or 6 people involved and say, this person is just responsible for what they did. But the benefit of going after people in block, all of them together, is you can bring in pieces of evidence to say, the main person did X, Y, and Z plus A and D, but let's take a look at what the first co-conspirator did. And you start adding these up. And what you do is you start braiding something together into a quilt. And you show what it actually is a purposeful, intentional, broad effort to make some act happen. And in this case, it was the death of another. And so the benefit of prosecuting in a conspiracy manner is why you do that. Frequently, as a big example, is that's how the feds went after the mob. Because what you end up getting is a whole series of people who may be involved in, everything from money laundering to sexual assault to murder to all sorts of other things. But there's 15 players, and none of them have a clean path to getting all of this. But if you can tie them around each other, what you do is, everybody gets cement shoes. You know what I mean? That's how it works if we're going to stay with the mafia.
And one of the things I wanted to end on, and it's your expertise as being formerly a part of the CIA. I don't know if there is this feeling that, particularly if you're dealing with Americans who are abroad, if a crime is committed abroad, there's a way to cover it up. There'll be a lack of an investigation. That is not what happened here. You had a thorough investigation, a thorough prosecution. Your hat's off to law enforcement there, to the investigators there who were able to piece this together and piece it together very quickly. In your experience, I don't know if you've done work in Africa or not, but in your experience in other countries, their legal system, their law enforcement system is quite up to par, right? I mean, they are really solving what could have been quite a complicated case.
It's a great question. So I have taught trial advocacy skills in Tbilisi in Republic of Georgia. I taught them not that long ago in Turkey, in Istanbul. I've taught in southern Russia. I've taught in Kenya, South Sudan, Uganda, and elsewhere. So Thailand, elsewhere around the world. And I remember sitting next to a lawyer who was a prosecutor and then was a criminal defense attorney about my age in a place called Gulu in northern Uganda. This guy was just like me. I mean, our experiences were very similar in terms of what we did, how we did it. The level of sophistication was like exactly what it is that I do on every day. There was no difference. The notion amongst some people that if you move into other parts of the world, that somehow these people are lesser, that somehow these people are incapable. What we have are the most competent, and just like in the US, sometimes the least competent people. And it's just the truth. We have that here and we have that there too. And so you get into a place where you have some law enforcement officials who know what they're doing, they know how to do their job, and they do it very, very, very well. So if you come to a place and just assume, oh, this is quote unquote the third world, the developing world, and so therefore I can do anything I want, I think you might want to take a closer look and realize it doesn't play out that way sometimes.
No, and that's a great point. That's a great point. And I think the point that I was making, I can't speak for her. I can't speak for Ms. Shroyer, but I was wondering if there was a thought in her mind, well, you know, if I want to get rid of my husband, it's better to do it here than in the United States. You know, there's may be a misunderstanding of how thorough and how professional and how competent law enforcement and prosecutors are in all countries around the world. And I don't know if it was just, you know, it seems like it was a panic, right? She thought that they were going to be leaving. She had her lover, but it's just, again, hats off. I've always tried to do it. Hats off to the investigators, the prosecutors who put the bad guys away, whether it's here in the United States or any other country. This is a horrible situation, and just hearts, prayers, thoughts, well wishes to those children, because this is an incredibly difficult life that they now have to navigate. Jack Rice, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Always, my friend, always. Thank you.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on X or Instagram. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.